welcome to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, sponsored by Motivate Training and Management. This is a podcast where we talk to drivers and industry experts to help you maximize your performances on and off the track. Let's get started with today's show. Hi guys, and welcome to episode 27 of the Motorsport Coaching Podcast. I am your host, Belinda Risley, and welcome to 2019. For our very first episode, we thought, why not just kick it off with no other than Mr. Todd Hazelwood. Todd is a 23-year-old V8 supercar driver who's finally made it to the main game after many years of being in the support category, raising funds, and pursuing his dream. Yes, like every episode, I am super excited to be talking to my guest today. But without a doubt, if you are an aspiring driver or you have an aspiring child that's wanting to be a V8 driver, there is nobody more down to earth and in tune with the general public, his fans, his sponsors than Mr. Todd Hazelwood. So I highly recommend today's podcast. So our special for the month of January is a signed shirt by Mr. Todd Hazelwood himself. So if you'd love to leave a review about the podcast, I'd really appreciate it. You head to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and now Podbean. It would be greatly appreciated. Of course, guys, if you've got any feedback regarding the show or any guests that you would love to have on, please let me know at motivatetraining.com.au/contact, and I see what I can do for you. I really hope that you're getting lots of value from these podcasts. I guess my main objective for the podcast is to add value to the beginner to amateur motorsport competitor, and just helping you, skill your craft around becoming a better competitor, both on and off the track. So as our slogan states, Motivate Training is all about maximizing performances on and off the track. So hopefully through podcasts, through online training, and soon in 2019, we'll be launching our membership site that you'll have lots of resources available for you to get you not only to the V8 supercars, but hopefully overseas, but whatever it is, just pursuing your passion. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in, and let's hear from Todd. So welcome to the show, Todd.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Looking forward to having a chat.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear about your journey through motorsport. So tell us, what age did you get started?
Yeah, for me, it all started young. I was 7 years old and got my first taste in a dirt kart, actually. So raced dirt karts for 5 years and haven't looked back ever since.
And how did you get into karting? Was it something that your dad did? I know he was in motorbikes at one stage, but yeah, was he actually into the four wheels as well?
To be honest, not really. He had a strong passion for motorbikes, and growing up as a kid, he was heavily involved in desert racing. And it was actually my godparents. They actually come over one day for a state title for go-karts, and they pulled the go-kart out the trailer. And I was about 4 or 5 years old at the time, and just thought it was the best thing in the world. And that at that time was doing a little bit of super sprint stuff out at Malala in an old Falcon, and I was always at the racetrack every second weekend basically. So always had a love for the sport, and I basically nagged Dad to the point where he brought me a go-kart when I was 7, and it's been a hell of a journey ever since.
Yeah, and was it always your aspiration to race a V8, or what was your grand plan when you first started back way then?
Yeah, back when I was a young kid, I was fully obsessed with supercars, and absolutely loved the V8 Supercars Championship back then, and certainly idolised a lot of the guys in the category at the time. And I think it was probably more as I started going through the ranks of motorsport and got out of go-karts and getting into Formula Ford, I really I probably had sights set at a bigger picture. I was definitely aiming to go overseas and try and make a career in the European scene. But it's funny how things can change, and fortunately I've ended up living my dream, being a supercar driver now. So certainly not complaining, and haven't looked back.
And did you go to Europe at all?
Actually, never been over to Europe. I had an opportunity to race the Macau Grand Prix back in 2013, but it never come through. And that, I suppose, for me, there was an opportunity that I look back probably maybe wishing that I took on, but at the same time, I was just a young kid from Adelaide. I had no backers behind me, and we were trying to do the impossible at the time. So we had to be realistic about our approach moving forward, and that's why we lean towards the scene of racing in supercars. And it's been, fortunately for me, it's been quite a successful trip so far.
Yeah, so you mentioned you started out with the dirt karts, and then at what age did you go to the Formula Fords?
Yes, I started when I was 7 and did 5 years of dirt karting. We won multiple state titles. Never won a national title, but got second in my first Australian title, which was cool. It was a bit of a highlight for me. Only just turning 9 years old against 14-year-olds, so that was pretty special. And for me, it was obviously to always go into Bitchman, so hence why we made the transition to Bitchman karting. Again, we had some really good success, and then when I was 14, I got the opportunity to test a Formula Ford for the very first time out at Winton Raceway, and that was all part of a scholarship program put together with Arrow Karts, which I was a driver for at the time. So, looking back at that, that was really gave me my first shot on the circuit racing scene, and yeah, it was really successful. We finished second on debut and a fully sponsored drive at Malar in the State Series, and that really helped, I suppose, put my name on the map in the open wheel racing scene. But we had to actually wait out a year. We saved a lot of money, and we did a lot of fundraising in 2011. Didn't do much racing at all to try and save up to buy a Formula Ford and make that big commitment in 2012 to go racing in a national scene.
Mm-hmm. And then after Formula Fords?
Yes, after Formula 4, we only did a year of the Victorian State Series, and we got an opportunity to race Formula 3 in the National Series. So that was with Artec Racing, who are an Adelaide-based team, which worked well for me because I was in my final year of school in year 12 and was doing a light mechanical apprenticeship, and that all both tied in with working at the race team and helping out wherever I could. So it was quite an exciting year. We finished second in the National Series, which is pretty cool. And looking back, Formula 3 was probably one of the best race cars I've actually ever driven. It was a really cool experience, and certainly learnt a lot from a driver point of view. Formula 3 was a great category for me. I certainly learned a lot over that course of the year. And, from a driving point of view, I certainly learnt a lot about driver technique and trying to finesse the aerodynamics of the car, and you had to be pinpoint accurate with everything that you did. So I think that really helped me develop as a driver in that year in 2013, and that certainly helped the transition when I moved into the Supercars in 2014, running in the Super 2 series.
I'm just going to go back to schooling because a lot of our competitors are quite young. How did you find the balance between like high school and competing? And definitely like 12s, because I know a lot of the boys are going to year 12 this year, and so they're kind of just putting it on a bit of a back burner.
Yeah, definitely. Year 12 was, all of schooling, looking back, to be honest, was really tough because there was so much time spent away from school that it was, really, really tricky to try and manage it all. And for me, I wanted to be successful no matter what I did. So for me, school was an important part of, trying to become a professional racing car driver, because at the end of the day, there is no dumb race car driver out there. That you need your maths, you need your people skills, you need to have business skills. So try and achieve. So, I remember back in the go-karting days, we spent, more time at racetracks than what I did at school at one point. So trying to manage the two was always tricky, and spending a lot of my recesses and lunches, trying to play catch up, all the schooling that I've missed, and all this, particularly in the later years of between year 9 to year 12, where there's a lot of study involved and a lot of exams. So trying to manage that was certainly a challenge, but it's kind of one of those things. Everything's going to be tricky, but it's just a matter of being committed and taking away the time that you would normally spend with your friends or family or whatever, just to catch up and do what you want to do. So it's always a sacrifice to try and make it pay off.
Yeah, and back then, did you do any other sports as well? I know that's another challenge that a few of the up-and-coming drivers have, is finding that line. They quite enjoy doing their soccer or their football, and it gets to a point they've got to choose one or the other. Did you play any other sports, or do you now?
No, I don't actually play any sports now, but back when I was a kid, I loved my cricket. So started out cricket at a young age as well, and cricket worked back then in the simple days worked well because I'd play cricket on Saturday and then go racing on Sunday. But for me, motorsport was always the top priority. It was always, cricket was always just a bit of a hobby with mates, and then doing the serious stuff on Sundays. But that'll probably dried up when I got into year 8, and when I suppose the motorsport dream got a lot more serious, and cricket wasn't really a priority. So it's always been full sight set on trying to achieve in motorsport.
So back onto your dream journey, Todd. You just mentioned that in 2013 you started in the Super 2s. How did that drive come about? Who was that with?
Yeah, it was actually a pretty unique opportunity. So in end of 2013, I was actually on a reality TV show. It was the Shannon Supercars Showdown. So it was season 3 of the show. It was the first time that For Performance Racing had actually taken grip of the show and ran it themselves. So there was 2 teams with Will Davison and Mark Winterbottom, and I was on the Will Davison side, and that was pretty cool. And that actually, part of being in that show was the first time I ever got to drive a supercar when we moved on into the semi-finals. So it started off as 8 contestants, went down to 4, and that's where I drove an FPR prepared supercar called apart for the first time, and went on to win the show. And part of that gave me a testing program with For Performance Racing in 2014. So, but really what it only eventuated from that was actually just a test day. And unfortunately after that, it didn't really lead to much because I just didn't the facility or the car to put me in a program in Super 2, which they were hoping to do. So it was kind of one door closed and another one open with Matt Stone Racing. So I got a phone call from Matt at the end of 2013 saying he'd be interested in the Super 2 program. And so, I flew up by myself and met Matt for the first time in January in 2014 and signed a deal that we had no way of actually being able to try to pay for. And we just took a massive gamble and we turned up to Adelaide. We actually lost our major sponsor, Fujitsu, in the process of that month, which was a huge setback for us because they've been on board for 3 years. Yeah, so we kind of went into the first round of Adelaide with no sponsorship on the car, and huge gamble from us as a family because we all kind of sat down together and said, well, this is probably, we've got a good car, good team. We had Ash Walsh, who was gunning for the championship that year, so he was highly experienced, and we thought, well, if we don't make it now, then we never will. So we essentially put all our eggs in one basket. Mum and Dad had to mortgage the house, and that got us going for a few rounds. And then, once we got the season running, I was able to bring some sponsorship in just to keep it going. But it was certainly pretty nervous times because obviously that mortgaging the house is one part, but that could only get you so far. So that was just a bump start. But then actually, we were committed to Matt for 7 rounds, and we didn't have every round. We're just getting through in the skin of our teeth. So it was 2014 was definitely a tough year, but we had some good speed and good results for our rookie year, and we ended up winning the Mike Cable Award for the essentially rookie of Supercars or Super 2. So that was a really special achievement, and to that point, that was probably the biggest highlight of my career. So yeah, that was a great way to finish off 2014 after what had been tremendously tough for not only myself, the family, and everyone, all the support network involved to make that happen was actually something pretty special. And that all went on to keep building with Mats. And looking back now, 5 years later, here we are today, looking into our second year in main game. So it's been quite an incredible journey with Matt.
Fantastic. And was Fujitsu your sponsor, or was it Matt's sponsor?
No, so I was actually part of the Fujitsu Cool Driver program, which all started up in 2011. So it was actually through Chris Jewell, who was managing that at the time, and that was when we saw McLaughlin was sponsored by Fujitsu in a Super 2 series, and essentially they set that program up trying to find the next Scott McLaughlin, essentially. So I was part of 7 drivers around the country in karting, and then that they helped put a program together for me to make the transition to Formula Ford and then Formula 3. So they were a big supporter of mine, and unfortunately that all dried up probably at the worst timing for us, but it was just one of those things, and we had to take the punches and move on and try and make it happen. And fortunately, I don't really know, obviously we took a large gamble financially, but we still play with that debt now, but that's what we had to do to get that start in motorsport to make it all happen.
And Todd, you've mentioned that you've had to sacrifice, I guess, your teen years or your tween years, wanting to fulfill your dream, like doing outside activities and other sporting events, and obviously your parents mortgaging their homes. What else have you done or sacrificed to make it to the top?
Oh, look, there's probably 2 ways you could look at it. You could look at it as a sacrifice, or you can look at it as something that you really want to do, and you just do whatever you can to make it happen. So, everyone's got a different view on what's normal and, what they consider a fun thing to do. For me, going away racing and achieving at the highest level, that's all I've ever wanted to do was, growing up as a kid, and that's still what I want to do now. So, I think I was pretty lucky. I had some good mentors, or people that offered their support in the go-karting years, and there were guys that probably certainly had the ability and had some opportunities and presented in front of them, but they just didn't get through those tough times or didn't get through those teen years to keep themselves on track. And then when they realised that, that opportunity was gone, it was all too late. So that probably taught me a few life lessons before I got to that point myself. And Dad always said, if you could get through your teenage years, keep out of trouble and keep your head, keep your head screwed on, so to speak. And, that'll certainly help you, achieve what you want to achieve. And probably looking back, he's probably right, because, while everyone else is, they're turning 18, getting their Ps and out drinking and partying and whatnot, I was there trying to do sponsorship proposals and calling people up and, literally doing the door knocking. So, it's just a matter of deciding what you want to do and just committing yourself to it to make it happen.
And I believe there was a Bunnings fundraiser to sausage sizzle as well.
Yeah, there's certainly plenty of sausages were cooked in the process of between 2012 and 2017. That's for sure. So yeah, it was quite funny how that all come about. I was actually selling chocolates at the time at school, selling those Cadbury fundraiser packs, and I was selling 2 or 3 boxes a day. So I was using that to try and raise funds. And then we thought, well, what else can we do? And then we started selling sausages, and it used to be once a weekend, and then it was two a week, and then at some stage it was 3 or 4 a week. So Mum and I were setting up stall mainly at Mitre 10 and office works, just trying to raise funds to go racing. And yeah, we if we weren't doing that in 2014, 2015, and 2016, we definitely wouldn't have been able to get through. So yeah, if it wasn't racing on Sunday, I was cooking snacks instead. So it was a huge family, which what helped us get us through. But it was also a good way of, building our support network, meeting new people and creating opportunities and being able to talk to other people that I'd never met before to try and get people involved with what we're trying to do. And yeah, that was a great way of being able to achieve that. And looking back now, we've got, pretty, I think for a young guy coming through the ranks, I think we've got a good support network probably based around that, just because we've been able to meet so many new people in the process doing what we're doing.
So the key word there, Todd, is networking. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely. Yeah.
That networking is really important to enhance your motorsport career.
Yeah, definitely. And you need to be able to have a good reputation in what you do, and you gotta create an image of who you are and what you stand for. And yeah, and trying to get people on board with you with what you're trying to achieve is it was always a tough thing. So for me, like I grew up in a family. My dad's just a shift manager at the railways. He doesn't own a business or anything like that. And from his point of view, it's pretty limited with essentially the amount of contacts that we had to work with. Trying to find money. So you just got to put yourself out there, get on the phone, and go to events, and just try and sign up for whatever you can do from an individual point of view to just meet people. And that's probably, from my point of view, that's probably been the best way for me to find sponsorship and get deals done, is just by putting yourself out there and hoping for the best.
Yeah, like I was at the city gym on the weekend, just on the cross trainer, and I was just talking to the guy next door, and he ended up being a business owner from America that's like starting a new business here in Australia, and I've got a meeting with him next week regarding sponsorship. So you never know when you're going to meet the right person.
Exactly.
But again, if I never engage in that conversation on the treadmill, I wouldn't be having that next step in a meeting with him. So I was just wanting to highlight the importance of networking. I feel like a lot of the guys were wanting sponsorship just to come knocking onto their front door, and it's a very big part of the education process of getting themselves out there and trying to, door knock if need be, doing the sausage sizzles, or whatever it basically takes to try and find sponsors.
Yeah, 100%. And, sponsorship at the end of the day is definitely the hardest aspect of what we do when we go racing. So certainly not the most enjoyable. And there's certainly a lot of no's in the process, and there's a lot of humiliation that goes on when you're trying to get money. So sometimes, question myself a lot of times, why am I doing this to myself? And, why am I doing this to my family? But then when you actually do get those breakthroughs, or the maybes, or the possible yeses, they're the things that keep you going. And I think it's important to not lose sight of what you're trying to achieve, and have small goals. If you're trying to find $100,000 in one day, that's probably unrealistic. But if you're looking to find $1,000, or even $200 or $500 a day, and just keep working away at that, that's what you have to do, and just keep level headed. And the important thing is, as you said, you just keep networking, because you can never know enough people. And if you surround yourself with the right people and successful people, you might just be successful with yourself if you're lucky and you take that all on board. And it was probably what I was quite lucky in 2014 to come across a man of Jason Gomersall, who is the CEO of IC Communications. And, here we are today in a heavily joint partnership with Matt Stone and myself and Jason, and we work closely together. So that was just from a simple walking around, doing a track walk at Adelaide, and I didn't even know who he was, didn't know he owned a business, just thought he was a really good guy and a good bloke. And he turned around later on that weekend and said, "Oh, how about I put a sticker on the car for," it was nothing substantial, it was just a small amount, and that that partnership started from there, and then turned out to be a major sponsor for 3 years in a row. Now, our major sponsorship in the main Supercars Championship as well. So never take for granted who you meet, and never go off face value. You always got to look past that, and it doesn't matter what their appearance is or whatever. You just never know who you can be talking to sometimes. So
Exactly.
it's always a big thing when you're trying to manage sponsorship. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a great story, Todd. Thanks for sharing that one. And how did you come across Big Mate and your relationship with them?
Yeah, Big Mate's an exciting partner. So they're a GPS telematics brand, or company, I should say, and do a lot of asset tracking, and heavily involved in a wide range of markets. So they don't just do buses and trucks and taxis and whatnot with tracking vehicles and doing their programs there, but also anything from a shopping trolley to all the smaller things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. They've got something tracking that, and they've got systems in place to monitor what's going on. So it's quite an impressive brand. And from our point of view, we come across them in this halfway through 2016. Started out as just a minor sponsorship at Sandown Raceway, and got to know everyone involved, and that eventuated into being a major partnership in my championship winning year in 2017, where we won the Super 2 series together. We had a championship debut in the main game championship as a wild card, and all doing that together, we then sat down towards the end of 2017, and we inked a deal to do the Supercars Championship this season in 2018 and make that large commitment, which was really special. So considering that started out as a small partnership, eventuated into something quite significant just in a matter of months. So it's amazing what you can do when you firmly believe in the product that you're selling to someone, and for someone else to see the potential in that and embrace it and take it on board. And they've had a great partnership with us. They've been super successful with the activations that they've done at the events, and been able to generate a lot of new business, which is really exciting. So it's although we go racing and we get to put the car on the track, it is I find it very rewarding being able to put deals like that together and actually see the benefits being rewarded for the brand. And obviously they put a large commitment towards us, but then actually being able to give it back and show that the partnership works and what we have as a product is successful. So that's I get a real kick out of that, and it's good to see.
Yeah, definitely one of the most rewarding parts of my role. I have to agree with you there. So obviously it sounds like, Todd, that once you actually sustain that sponsor, and it's not just about a sticker on the car, that you've been able to nurture and grow that relationship over the time. What kind of things do you actually do with the sponsors, maybe off the track? Let's start with.
Yes, it's a good question, because no sponsor is the same, and you can never have a generic sponsorship proposal, because every brand that you see, they often want something different, or they want to see something unique. And I think that's probably the biggest thing of what we do. We always try to offer an experience that's what we call a money can't buy experience, essentially, that no one else at the racetrack can be offered. Or it's not just simply giving them a ticket and getting them to turn up at the back of the pits. It's much more than that. And obviously, from a branding point of view, I look at that as the cream on top of the cake. It's certainly what you do at the track, what we call event activations. So we essentially try and sit down with the brand that we're working with. I'll use Big Mate for an example for this one, where we'll sit down with their management team or general manager and work out who are our key clients for this particular event. We're going to be racing in Adelaide. So who if we put five people together, who would best be suited to come out to that event? Do they have an interest in motorsport? are they potential clients that you haven't been able to get new business with, and we can use hot lap opportunity around that Adelaide circuit to lure them in to come into the events and get them interested. And then that helps starts conversations going with a potential business deal that they may have in the line, and being able to grow that relationship at an event we find is hugely beneficial, because 9 times out of 10 have had a fantastic time. We've had, honestly, this year we've had a 100% strike rate of being able to have clients turn up, or even if it's just staff turn up and have a fantastic time, which we take a lot of pride in, which is quite cool. And that helps the whole partnership. And then it's the follow up from that for them to then create that partnership and keep it building, and hopefully put ink to paper and sign new business and see the I suppose the benefits become real. So that's one aspect. And then we also have a deal with Optus, which is quite unique as well, because we do a lot of activations leading into the events. So Optus is a very different brand to to Big Mate again. So we do a lot of on-site activation. So we do signing opportunities, we do photo opportunities, we do giveaway opportunities. So what we do there is we do a money can't buy experience, where we offer tickets, a hot lap, and a VIP experience with the team. So that's probably a bit more unique, because there's so many stores associated with Optus around the country. We generally do that round by round, so we target specific areas that they're managing, and that all helps put that program together. So kind of gives you an idea that each brand is different. Some brands like the branding and they don't like much else behind the scenes, whereas other brands don't really care too much about the signage on the car, but they're really interested in what they can do at the events. So being able to juggle that is tricky, but once it's always good when you can have a sponsor that's willing to work with you as well. But it's always about trying to be forthcoming, come up with the ideas in the first place to make it all happen.
Yeah, and show them a little bit of initiative of how you can maximize their marketing opportunities as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's always important to never be afraid to throw out left field ideas, because sometimes you think that the most simplest idea they're well aware of when they're not. So it's always good to go into a meeting and sit down with them and work out what they want to get out of the sponsorship, and then come up with a very detailed plan and how to achieve that. So it's always exciting.
Now, Todd, I read the other day there was a post, and I can't remember which driver actually posted it. I'm not sure if you saw it, but they calculated they had done more hours in sponsorship talks, activations, meets and greets in a lead up to an event than actually competing on the track. And from listening to you, I'm thinking it's very true. What do you?
100%. From my time day to day at workshop is probably 90% of it is on the phone, talking to sponsors, managing sponsors, organising events, or being at events. So it's a huge part. I can't emphasize enough of how much you have to be involved to keep to get the sponsorship, then keep it, and then service them. So it's massive for what we do, and simply we wouldn't go racing if we weren't doing it. So I think a lot of people are unaware of it. I certainly was, even growing up as a kid. I thought once you get into supercars, everything would be sorted, and you turn up your race suit and helmet and you go racing. But certainly not the case. As when there's millions of dollars involved, that's obviously there needs to be a reward in return for them as well. And I think businesses today are getting a lot smarter as well, and they are understanding how to get more value for money out of the sponsorship that they're putting in. So there's a lot of marketing strategies involved now, and even commitments and all the other aspects that go along with it. So it's a big part of what we do.
Yeah, and like you said, though, is it one of the really important parts? So Todd, tell us a little bit about what does your actual day or a week look like for you now that you're in the main game?
Yeah, being a Supercars Championship, initially not a lot changed for me, because we're a small team. I was still doing all the sponsorship, finding them and signing them all up, and doing all their commitments, and also trying to help out on the workshop floor where possible. But certainly learnt a lot this year, and to be honest, it probably wasn't sustainable. We're a team that was trying to build at a rapid rate, and simply just couldn't keep up with the workload. So we actually just recently have put on a new commercial manager for the team to start looking after the sponsors and servicing. I'm still heavily involved with trying to help acquire new sponsors and speaking and doing the deals, but just I suppose from a servicing point of view, just taking a bit of workload off my shoulders so I can focus on being more of a race car driver rather than everything else, which is important for me because I want to try and improve my skills. I've never really had that opportunity, probably in the last six or 7 years, to be able to do that. So yeah, it's quite exciting going to the off season now. The couple of weeks that I have to switch off, which I've learnt is very tough to do, especially at this level. So it's important to switch off, have a rethink, and get prepared for another big year because when it comes to February, we just don't stop until the end of the year, and it goes fast. So got to be prepared for that, and hopefully we have a much better year in 2019.
And so now that you will be focusing purely on your racing, what would that entail? Would that be like more training, like focusing more on your nutrition, getting a psych coach? We heard Scott had one last year. What does that now mean for you as a driver holistically?
Yeah, it's quite exciting actually, and I've been able to organise a fair bit in a short amount of time. But you got a heavily detailed training program, both physically and mentally. So I've always believed, there's the smartest driver always wins a race, and getting back to that sports psychologist comment, that's hugely important. And being able to be mentally tough, you need to be strong and have good beliefs in yourself that you can do it. And it seemed simple at the time, but then when you have a few tough knocks, you have a tough year, especially the year that we've had this season. It's tough on everyone, and it's amazing how quickly you can start second guessing yourself and not believing in what that you can do. Just the results aren't showing it. So it's amazing how you can go from being at the top of your game to all of a sudden start second guessing yourself. So I'll be certainly working on that. Trying to get my fitness and mental back to where I know it should be, and hopefully that'll help next year.
Yes, of course. That is a great point. I've missed out that you did go from winning the championship to running it at the back of the field in the main game. How was that jump for you? And if you want to talk a little bit about the psyche for you.
Yeah, I think from a mental point of view, you can never be prepared for it, and it's always a big jump. It doesn't matter who you are and what you've done. It's just one of those things you're never ready until you're in there. So it's just all about experience and learning. I think the cars themselves, don't really change too much from main game to Super 2. I think it's just the intensity of the field. You got 26 guys that all deserve to be out there, and they all race hard. And if anything, they race harder towards the back of the field because no one wants to be at the back. So it's tough going, in the start of the races towards the back of the field, and mentally tough as well because one small opportunity and you get past, and there's just a freight train of cars coming. So you just can't afford to stop. It's pretty intense, and that's what we all love. But it does get compounding, week after week because we're doing it at the largest scene. Everyone's watching. You've got sponsors involved. They're all got their expectations, and then when you're not getting the results that you can't, they're just not coming together. It starts all to become compounding, and it's like a snowball effect. You go from one week to the other, and you're just getting knock after knock. And normally in motorsport, it's quite easy to have have a bad weekend, you bounce back and you have a solid result. Whereas main game, if you're on the back foot, you just simply can't catch up. And I think the other thing too is the rate of development with the teams. So they're always improving their cars, and you can't afford to miss a round of development. Otherwise, you go into the next round even further behind. So that's probably the other surprising aspect that we've found this year.
And so you mentioned previously that you had mentors throughout your career at different stages. Do you currently have a mentor now in the main game?
No, I haven't really had any sort of coach or trainee in supercar program, but especially in karting, it was more of just race weekend mechanics that were helping out. But they were guys that had certainly skilled and had opportunities to do great things, but just never got the golden opportunity to keep pursuing that, or for whatever reason. So certainly learnt a lot of life lessons from them growing up, and we were living out of a tent and trailer on race weekends, so certainly got to understand what they went through, and being able to, I suppose, see that from a young age gave me, I suppose, a wider perception of what to expect when I made that next transition into Formula cars and open wheel racing. So that was really important. Just, I think, getting back to before, surrounding yourself with successful people will help you become successful yourself. And it's funny, you can see some quotes when you grow up and you don't know what they mean until you actually have a bit of time to reflect once you've had a few years under your belt to realize what all this stuff means. So it's yeah, it's quite cool now. I'm 23 now, and everyone still says you're young, but you're only young once, so you got to make the most of your opportunities. And yeah, it's always good to look back at all that sort of stuff and realize what helped you get there.
Yeah, and you just mentioned about surrounding yourself by successful people. One of those successful people in your life is your wonderful sister, Lauren, who we had previously on episode 18. What kind of role has she played in your success, if any?
Oh, no, it's been a huge family commitment, and yeah, it's certainly wouldn't have been able to do what I do without my family. So, from the fundraising efforts to Lauren doing, a lot of the PR and digital work for me behind the scenes, a lot of it was all, or probably 90% of it was all unpaid work, especially in those early years from go-karts and all the way up through my Super 2 program. It's only really been this year where I've been able to pay her something for all the work that she does. So, she's heavily involved with what we've done, and she is exceptionally good at what she does. And, I think that her track record proves that as well, because, she's worked for CAMS and worked for a lot of individual teams and done a lot of work for everyone. And, heavily involved with all that. So, what she does is exceptionally good, which, helps my program too, because it makes my life easier because we've got good content. She's very good at managing people, very good from the PR point of view, and lifts the level of professionalism from our program, and makes, it complements the whole program. So yeah, wouldn't be able to do what I do without her.
And does she do your social media, or do you do your own media? Or do you have
we kind of share it. So I do most of it, but on race weekends, Lauren does take over. She'll always ask me what I want to write, and she'll put it together, just because, especially in between sessions on track, it's always difficult to even get 5 minutes to put a Facebook post together. And it's certainly, Facebook post certainly not a high priority when you're trying to find a tenth of a second in a car before qualifying. So it's just all about prioritizing what I need to do, and yeah, she helps me do that.
Mm-hmm. Now for some fun questions, Todd. Do you have any superstitions on race day?
I actually used to be very superstitious, but not so much now. So yeah, not really. I'm a bit of a clean freak, so I always like to have everything clean and organised before I get in the car. So, but other than that, yeah, nothing too out of the blue.
And what about the food served in the marquee?
Yeah, I'm probably a bit of a gutser, so I love pretty much anything. So, been pretty fortunate over the last few years where Bev and Jimmy Stone, Matt's parents, have actually been doing the team catering for a number of years now, and I tell you what, they're probably the best cooks up and down pit lane. So certainly we get spoiled for food on race weekend, which is pretty cool.
You've got to be well fed, well hydrated.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just wrapping it up, Todd, do you have any tips or recommendations for those drivers that are aspiring to race in the main game, or just wanting to really further their career?
Yeah, I think for any young listeners out there today listening is, definitely don't lose sight of your dream. Don't ever think that it's ever too big or anything like that. I was able to surprise myself in what I was able to achieve by just keeping my head down and keep chipping away at it, and remind yourself what you're trying to achieve, but also set small goals, along the way. Obviously, it's important not to lose sight of the overall dream, because otherwise it's hard to motivate yourself, especially in those tough times, to keep going. But if you use those small goals, they're the ones that help you keep motivated, get you out of bed nice and early, and keep training and get on the phone and trying to find money. So it's all part of it. Yeah, and getting back to surrounding yourself with the right people. I can't emphasize that enough. If you see so many young kids coming through the ranks and they've got a lot of potential, and they just get involved with the wrong people, and it's always a hard thing because you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you have to learn the hard way. But I think it's just being aware of the situation you're in, and don't be afraid to pick the phone up and speaking to these people as well. People that are highly influential in this game. I get a lot of requests of people not sure what to do, and it's just a simple phone call that can change their whole direction of what they were originally trying to do. So I think that's important, not to be afraid to put yourself out there.
Yeah, and I think LinkedIn is a great platform for people to do that, to try and get to network and to establish their brand, and certainly to ask questions or to find mentors. Have you had any experience with or success with LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn's been good. It's certainly an opportunity to connect with some people that you wouldn't necessarily actually get the opportunity to even meet with or speak with. So certainly a great way if they certainly accept your request, and you can start publishing online what you're doing and trying to keep people updated with what you got lined up in the future. So it's a great way of being able to showcase that. But I think simply just getting on the phone, and if you can send an email or even just turn up to their office unpronounced, sometimes it's not the most ethical thing to do. But if you really are struggling to meet with someone, just simply turning up and hoping to have that 5-minute conversation sometimes can go a long way, especially if you're a young kid, trying to make a mark. Sometimes you have to do these things left the field to create an opportunity.
Well, thank you, Todd, for those words today and your time and sharing with us your experience of racing to the top. Before you go, our final question is, what is your favourite racetrack, whether it's racing or viewing?
Look, I would have to be very biased, but Bathurst is definitely my favourite. It's hard to go past that, and racing a supercar around there was unbelievable. It's the ultimate challenge, and I've also raced a Formula 3 car around there, but that was a totally different challenge again. But racing a supercar at Bathurst is definitely the pinnacle, and it doesn't get any better than that.
And is that your favourite race meeting?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's nothing else that really gets the shivs up the spine like compared to Bathurst. And growing up from Adelaide, I was always went to the Adelaide 500 growing up as a kid, and it's probably the second as a close second. So between those two, they're pretty exciting events to go to.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Todd, for your time today, and we wish you all the best in the 2019 Supercar Series.
No worries. No, thank you very much for having me on the show. It was great to have a chat.
No worries. Thanks, Todd.
No worries. Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to this week's show. I really hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. Now, remember, all the show notes with the links and the specials mentioned in today's show are available over at motivatetraining.com.au. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate if you could head to iTunes or Stitcher, type in Motorsport Coaching, subscribe, and leave us a review. Each week, I'll read them out, and you'll go into monthly draw to win a fantastic prize. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at motivatetraining.com.au or head over to our Facebook page at Motivate to Tea. Until next time, take care.